Hello, welcome back to another SwansCast match preview. And ahead of Swansea's home game against Huddersfield, I'm joined by Matt from And He Takes That Chance, a podcast that talks about Huddersfield Town. So welcome, Matt, to SwansCast for the first time.
Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks, and really happy to have you on. Obviously, we'll chat about Huddersfield, we'll chat about this game. But first of all, I know you just mentioned your podcast, but would you like to introduce yourself and tell us where we can find more of your stuff?
Yeah, so I'm Matt. I'm the founder of the Huddersfield Town podcast. Andy Takes That Chance. It's named after the winning commentary moment when we got promoted at Wembley in 2017. If you know what it was, it's similar to an old 1990s quiz show, like sports quiz show that used to be on there, based on the old Kenneth Wolstenholme commentary as well. So you can find us on social media at Takes That Chance if that takes your fancy by any chance. And we usually do a lot of post-match, pre-match reaction and analysis on that as well.
So go check that out for Matt's take and his team on this match. So obviously some stuff before and afterwards. Hopefully it's a positive result for whatever team you support, I guess. But go check that stuff out. So we'll get straight into it then. We start these videos normally by going back to the summer. I know we're getting to the halfway stage of the season, so I'm sure next time we have a chat it'll be a little bit different. But I just want to ask really, was there anything that changed in the club? Not necessarily players, we'll get onto that in a second, but anything that changed at Huddersfield over the summer at the club really?
Yeah, I mean, players is probably the only thing that didn't change. So, yeah, we've had since we fell out of the Premier League, we've had a bit of a tumultuous time. I think we had one season in 21-22, which is a bit of an outlier, where we finished third and got to the playoff final. But aside from that, I should say, and since then, it's been a bit of a mess. We've had multiple changes at board level. The previous owner, who sold us when we got relegated from the Premier League, had to bail out the owner he handpicked and sold it to. And then at the end of last season, into the summer, we were sold to an American group owned by Kevin Nagel, who used to own Sacramento Kings, a basketball team. So he's heavily based in Sacramento, but comes over every now and then. He's okay. He's been hamstrung by financial. It's more FFI rather than FFP. So Huddersfield Town haven't really been able to spend any money, or he's not been able to spend any money. So we've had quite a strange summer in that a new owner's come in and he's not really done anything because he's been hamstrung financially by the terms of the takeover. Manager wise, we were quite happy with Neil Warnock. That was fun. That was a lot of fun at the end of last season. Last season was miserable, and I think if you saw us at your stadium last year, I think we had one of the lowest XG ratings of the entire season. I think it was 0.07 or something like that. We were so flaccid under Mark Fotheringham. It was horrendous. And then Neil Warnock came in the last few months, and it was a lot of fun, and the most fun we've had for years, to be honest. And then he became Neil Warnock and became too difficult, I guess, for the new regime. So they bundled him out, kind of amicably, kind of not. But I think it was kind of amicably done before it became a problem, if you know what I mean. And then in came Darren Moore, and Darren Moore, when you follow a bit of a legend, Neil Warnock's had two spells at Huddersfield. The first time he got us promoted to what is now the Championship, within 2 seasons, we had 2 trips to Wembley in 2 years. The first time we've been since 1938. Ironically, it was the first trip was against Swansea in the Autoglass Trophy in '94. If you remember that, yeah, Jason Bowen playing for Swansea, which you won on penalties.
Unfortunately, I don't remember that one myself.
No, I was a kid. It was a good.
I wasn't a kid yet.
It was a good day, but and he came and saved us at the end of last season, and it was a lot of fun. So I think a lot of fans are very pro Neil Warnock. So when you follow somebody like Neil Warnock, or 2019 following David Wagner, that they're difficult steps for a manager to take. And Darren Moore's got big, broad shoulders. You've seen him, but it's tough. It's been tough, and we've been absolutely atrocious since he walked through the door. In all honesty,
I guess his credentials obviously been a bit better since what he achieved last season as well, and he didn't necessarily leave his last club in the best way. whether his fault or the board. I'm sure the Sheffield Wednesday fans will have a lot to say about that. But do you think you expected better when he came based on what he did last year with them?
No, I've Darren Moore's somebody that I've never particularly rated massively. I like him I liked him as a player, and I liked him as a football personality. I think he's a nice guy. I think football's full of characters, shall we say, and there's not many nice guys in there. So Darren Moore's a decent chap, but I always feel that he tracks just slightly under the level of expectation.
Yeah.
The West Brom side he had was good enough for top two. They finished fifth, and he ended up getting the boot. He did okay at Doncaster and at Sheffield Wednesday. I think they were expected to win the league in the 2 seasons he was there, and they ended up going through the playoffs, which is great. I'm sure that you've got to factor in the pressure that he was under at a club like Sheffield Wednesday in League One, but. For me, we needed someone who could turn water into wine, not fizzy water, not carbonated water, if you like the terrible analogy. But we need someone who can pull things out of the bag, unexpectedly. And I don't think Darren Moore's quite that man, but we're just at the moment limping through until January. And we're really hoping that the new American owner decides to put his hand in his pocket and bail the club out, because we find ourselves in a situation where we've had 5 or 6 years of continuous underinvestment. You would say, I know every football fan wants owners to throw money at the football club, don't they? But we have pretty much sold anything of worth that we've had, and not really adequately replaced many at any point over the last 5 years. So it's been a slow death in many times. So it needs an investment into the football club just to try and give us a leg up. Otherwise, it's going to be the slow fall towards League One's going to continue, I think.
I'm sure many Swansea fans will have them sort of opinions about what's going on here at the moment as well. Whether others agree or disagree, I know that is just a sort of conversation that is happening since we've got relegated as well from the Premier League in terms of selling the assets. What comes in might not be good enough, and slowly, one by one, the team just gets weakened to the point you fall down the table. So Swansea sitting in 18th ahead of the match, and Huddersfield in 21st. I say this having not played the midweek fixture, so we're playing Leeds United. Yourselves playing Sunderland?
Yes.
Yeah, Sunderland. So tricky fixtures, I think, for both. Ahead of the weekend. So I mean, look, we don't know what we'll be going into it. Maybe we'll both have really good wins and be going in high hopes and high spirits into this one. But we'll have to wait and see. Can't tell the future on that one. You mentioned players not really changing too much in the summer. Was there any change of players that are notable? Or did you manage to sign anyone?
No, not really. It's quite the opposite. I think if you looked across the first team, B team, and under 19s, we let over 30 players go and brought in 4. And last year we suffered badly for a lack of quality through the squad, and that's we've been going through a cycle of constant injury problems now for 18 months or so, and again we're running at around between 40 and 50% of the first team squad out injured constantly at the moment, which obviously hasn't helped Darren Moore. And it's another reason why on our podcast we can't really hammer him too much for one win in 9-10 games, because he's been hamstrung with the hand he's been dealt. But we're hopeful now a couple of players will come back. I mean, we signed over the summer. Chris Maxwell played his first league game on Saturday. He did okay. He was the Blackpool goalkeeper. Lee Nichols is usually our number one, but he's just had a neck injury, and he probably should be okay for the game against Swansea. We've not had a decent right back for a long time. We signed an absolutely woeful one from Stoke in Tom Edwards, who I feel a bit, it's a bit hypocritical for me to say this, but he's not in the best shape, shall we say. Neither am I, but, I'm sure he would point out. But he got destroyed at Leeds a couple of weeks ago, and he's been destroyed regularly down that flank. Anybody with pace just absolutely roasts him, so he's found himself out of the team. Other than that, we brought in Ben Wiles from Rotherham. We spent around about 800 grand, rising upwards on him. He was the one signing we made, but he's returning from a long-term injury and he's been struggling with niggles and all sorts. So we've not seen the best of him either. So really, it's mostly relying on the players that we had last season, and we've needed a new striker for about 3 years, and we've failed to, 4, 5, 6 windows, failed to bring one in because the club just doesn't want to spend any money or sort of make any large outlay on wages because of the financial restrictions that the owners have put. Well, not so much the owners have put the club under, but the football club doesn't turn. It's probably a similar club to Swansea in that it won't turn over massive amounts of money unless the owner puts his hand in his pocket and boosts that. Fortunately,
Yeah. And that's where it comes back to selling the assets, isn't it? That's the transfer model we're deploying, is they're trying to look for low risk purchases that have a sale on value. But not all of them work out, and you buy some players that just don't really amount to anything. You get one or two, and we've been lucky enough that most years we managed to make at least one sale that is significant in terms of the fee that it's brought in compared to maybe what we paid, or if it's an academy product. But it does feel like maybe that conveyor belt is coming to the end, and where's the next one coming from? And if the next one doesn't come, what sort of outlook does that have then on the club in terms of the finances, and what might have to happen if one player can't generate 10 million, for example? It's worrying, but hopefully we never see the result of that. But yeah, you mentioned the form. So the last 5 games I've got a sample of, and it's no wins for yourself. Obviously, by the time we play on the weekend, there's another game for both teams to play, as I just mentioned. So it could be different. So don't watch this on Thursday and think,
I don't think so.
What's he on about the form? But I've got down here 3 losses and 2 draws for Huddersfield in the last 5, and for Swansea it's 2 losses, 2 draws, and 1 win. So we're not really that much better. We got maybe one more win than loss in the last 5, but struggling as well this season, definitely, especially with the change of manager. Okay, so going into this game, Warnock's gone, so I'd imagine you're looking a little bit different. So what style of play would Swansea expect to see from yourselves when you make the visit down to South Wales?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure Darren Moore knows. We're incredibly negative. We can't keep hold of the ball because we've got no ball playing footballers whatsoever. Nobody can pass the ball in our team apart from the left back that we've got, Yuta Nakayama, who's good on the ball, but left back's not always the position to create from, if you like. So we will have low percentage in terms of possession. I know Michael Duff's not exactly a possession-based manager, is he? But I would imagine we will line up with a back 5, and it will be a 5, not a 3. We'll be quite narrow, close off the passing lanes through midfield, and we'll have one man up front. And at one point, probably be forced into being a bit braver and pushing a couple of the wide players up towards to support the striker. But it's been really, really dire. It's been negative. It's been dire. It's been 11 men behind the ball for 90 minutes football for quite a while to try and get a 0-0. It's depressing. If I'm honest with you, it's a really poor situation that we find ourselves in, and a lot of the fans are losing their heads at the minute, because when we replaced Neil Warnock, the message from the club was we are replacing from a position of strength, and that's the direct quote from the CEO. And since then, we've won 1 game in 10, and that game we shouldn't have won either. And we've just fallen off a cliff. The whole thing was pretty much held up by sellotape, and Neil Warnock was the tape, if you like, that held it together. And since then, it's been pretty rough. So the football you'll see will be negative. It'll be dire. It'll be slow. So yeah, strap yourselves in for a classic, I think.
We heard similar things when we played Watford, and they went and beat us. So.
I've just been watching Watford for 15 minutes upstairs, and they were playing really decent football. So it's honestly, it's nothing like that. But there have been outliers. It all depends on availability of who we have. Because, like I said, we've been going through a really rough period of injury. So it just depends on availability. If we have Delano, Bergzorg, Karoma, and Thomas as a front 3, for example, that is a good 3 that can press high. It's got pace. It can cause problems. None of them can really finish. Hence why we're not scoring any goals. But they can cause problems, and if the midfield do support that, then we aren't so bad. We played very well against Ipswich in a 3-5-2 with Karoma and Bergzorg up front, and we do tend to stop the opposition from playing out with a high press every now and then quite well. So we did it against Ipswich. We really should have beat Ipswich at home. It was a great performance in Darren Moore's first game. And then against Southampton on Saturday in the second half, we played quite well with a higher press. And when we do that, we actually have the players to be able to do it. But it's just about how brave they choose to be because of the amount of players we've got out injured and the number of B teamers sort of filling in at the moment. So we could at points do that, but I would imagine we would start on a very sort of negative 5-4-1, don't concede first half, I would guess, and then try and come out later in the game and try and nick something. I guess that'll be our game plan.
That's exactly what Watford did, and they battered us in the second half, actually. But I hope it's not the same for our sakes. I guess for you, obviously, you'd love a positive result there. But high press against us could be the way forward. You mentioned Michael Duff not being so possession-based. I think he's trying to be a little bit more than maybe what he had done in previous clubs, just because it's kind of what Swansea fans demand, is a bit more possession-based football. It's nothing like the Russell Martin style we had last season, but there definitely is a focus on still trying to keep the ball. He's just brought different aspects to it, which we don't fully still see or understand in some areas. But we tried to do a high press ourselves, a little bit more directness, a little bit of changing it up, if you like. Sometimes we'll do a diagonal or over the top and not just all on the floor. But there is still the aim to try and keep the ball a little bit more than the opposition. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to deploy a high press, it could still be a weakness for us if we are playing with it around the back. So interesting to hear that, and I hope they're not feeling so brave on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Okay, what about key players then? Who should Swansea be worried for if someone's going to make a difference in the game?
To be honest, our key players are defenders, and you don't really want to say you can't tell somebody to be worried about defenders. Michal Helik is probably our best outfield player. The goalkeeper Lee Nichols he's not had the best season. He was the goalkeeper of the year in the Championship in 21-22. Spent half of last season out injured, which was a huge blow to us. And this year we've changed the goalkeeper coach, and he's not really been at his best this season. But he is a good goalkeeper. Michal Helik is our best outfield player. Other than that, it just depends if they can be bothered. Josh Karoma has it in him to be decent for 10-15 minutes. Bergzorg has it in him to be decent for 10-15 minutes, although his decision making is akin to a 5-year-old in a playground. And Sorba Thomas, to be honest, has probably been after Michal Helik, is probably our best player at the moment, and his delivery has really improved. I think a couple of years ago he was solely just a set piece merchant, if you like. He's added a bit more to his game in the last sort of 12 months or so, and he's actually quite dangerous from out wide. His delivery is good, and he's popping up in the box a couple, in good positions when it comes in from the other side as well now. So Thomas, Helik, and Nichols, I think, if I had to pick 3.
And obviously, Swansea fans will be Wales fans, and they will know all about Thomas as well from his exploits on the international stage. I'm not sure if he's been getting that involved recently, but he has been in and out of the squads now for a while. Okay, what about if I flip the question on you? Swansea City players that maybe concern you that might do a little bit of damage to Huddersfield?
All of them, because we're crap, to be honest. So I looked at your last team, and I think there are certain ways Huddersfield can exploit Swansea, but I think there are also ways that Swansea could beat us. So it's an interesting game for me. I look at the defense of Swansea, and it's a very young backline, isn't it? They're sort of all under 25 in the last game. The goalkeeper, ironically, was our old owner made a decision to scrap our academy when we got promoted to the Premier League. Anybody would think, with extra money, the Premier League, you could improve your academy, but we decided to scrap ours, which has backfired, in my opinion. And one of the reasons for that backfiring is Rushworth, the goalkeeper, was with our under-16s or 15s at the time, and he got released and went to Brighton, and he's probably worth millions now, which was a good move
Yeah, he's very highly
from Dean
rated.
Howe.
When he came here, a lot of
Yeah.
people were giving us high praise for him, and he's been, especially in the last, I would say, 8 games or so, he's been outstanding for us.
So that's a particular bone of contention for me, is that our owner decided to do that. But yeah, Matt Grimes is a player that would fit into our setup brilliantly and completely change us as a team. So I really like Matt Grimes. And other than that, Jamie Patterson is decent. You know, Jamie Patterson could threaten us. You know, you look at Jerry Yates. Jerry Yates is. I've always said Jerry Yates is a very streaky player. You know, he kind
Yeah.
of he plays well in patches, doesn't he? And he scored, I think, the other day, didn't he? So you know, he's probably going through a decent patch and period at the minute, and he scored against us before.
Jerry Yates is a very he's one of them players that the fans are always like, is he doing enough? Is he not doing enough? Has he been a good signing? Has he not been a good signing? So yeah, it probably fits the narrative you just suggested there.
Streaky, yeah, he's definitely like Jamal Lowe, decent player. To be honest, I think most of your players will get in our side, if I'm honest. So it's difficult. I like Ben Cabango. He's decent, isn't he? And the guy you got from Chelsea was someone on our radar last year, yeah, as well. So it's a good. I like the Swansea team. I think it's good. It's just young and inexperienced, I guess, in key areas. But you know, Matt Grimes is the one where we've got Jonathan Hogg in midfield. It's criminal that we've not replaced him over the last 3 years. His legs have. I don't think it's harsh to say that his legs have gone, because he's 35. He's not. He's not. You know, 5 years ago he was brilliant at picking up second balls. You know, that was his game. He was so quick at tackling and second balls and interceptions, and now it's like. It's more like when you play football and your coach is on the field and he's sort of like coaching you whilst on the field and he's moving people around. He's like an old stager in a B team game, if you like. But he's brilliant at it. He keeps everything together. But he's just a little bit slow. And David Kasumu next to him is made of glass as well. I think he was linked with you guys, wasn't he, when we signed him? But he's always injured or always seems to have a problem. And they both bring a certain defensive energy in different ways, and they could potentially get on top of someone like Grimes, but I think he would control the game, and for us to get into it, I think we would need to take the game away from the midfield. I quite like the pivot Swansea play, Fulton and Grimes. I think that's quite a decent, experienced Championship midfield, and I think that's where the game will turn, if I'm honest, and who controls that middle of the pack, or if Hogg and Kasumu can get on top of them. Because unfortunately for us, Jack Redoni's injured and he's been good this year. So it needs David Kasumu to step up and put a performance in, really.
Yeah, everything goes through Grimes. If Swansea to play well, he's the guy that gets us ticking and moves the ball around. So it's key stopping him if you want to kind of stop us playing. I'm not sure if it'll be Felton alongside him in this one or Patino. Either way, they both do, equally
both good ball players, yeah.
So that'll be interesting. Definitely some good matchups there, and yeah, I would say you're right. Grimes is the main man really for us. So if he doesn't play well, we just don't play well. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for the video. So thank you very much for joining me. But I do have one more question to ask. Sure. It's not football related. A little bit more of a fun one, if you like. And I always ask this at the end of the videos, and that is, what is your favourite pint or drink that you would have at any stadium if you could choose anything?
You see, our podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing, a brewery in Huddersfield. So if I say anything else, I'll get into trouble. So I'll have to say a pint of I don't know. They do this. It sounds terrible, honestly. It sounds absolutely horrendous. But they do this. There are two companies in Huddersfield, quite independent companies who are good. There's Dixon's Ice Cream and there's Magic Rock Brewing, who are quite relatively large in the north of England, if you like. And if when you guys come over later on in the season, Magic Rock's got a little mini, like a micro brewery, about 15 minutes walk from the stadium. It's really good. and they've mixed a combination together called Dairy Freak, this it's sort of ice cream beer thing, and it sounds
my God.
horrendous. It sounds horrendous, but it's great. And so I'm actually I'll have to say Dairy Freak by Magic Rock Brewing, and I've probably just offended the majority of your listeners who've never seen it. But it's decent.
If you never tried it, then you can't knock it, can you? But
exactly.
anyone that does go up to Huddersfield for the away trip, I think that's got to be on the checklist to go and try, is an ice cream beer.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sounds like a root beer float, doesn't it? But it's not. Honestly, it's more of a. It's hard to describe it.
Trying to compare what the equivalent would be down here. We have ice cream parlour called Joe's Ice Cream, that's Swansea, like famous for Swansea, and I guess Gower Brewery or something like that would do a little bit of a combination and put a beer together, but not sure if it would happen. But that's probably what the equivalent would be. So anyone listening, imagine a Joe's Ice Cream Gower Brewery drink and go and try it when you go away to Huddersfield. So yeah, and let me know how it is, because sounds very interesting. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me, Matt. If you'd like to remind everyone where they can find your content, if they want to go and check your match previews and post-match stuff.
Yeah, you can find us across social media at Takes That Chance or www.takesthatchance.com.
There we go. Thank you very much. And I mean, look, Swansea have just beaten Leeds. No, I'm joking. I hope we beat Leeds tomorrow, and same for Huddersfield against Sunderland. And we both go into this game on top form, and hopefully it'll be a good spectacle for everyone to watch. And good luck for the rest of the season. Thanks for joining me, and I guess I'll catch up with you later on in the season as well.
Will do. Thanks, mate. Thanks, everyone.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone.